Hey, onesies, Josh Williams here, and thanks for checking out this week's episode of the One Man Podcast. It's always free and available on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, and many more, as well as on the web at onemanpodcast.com. So please, whatever platform you're listening on, like and subscribe. While you're at it, give it a rating, leave a review. Why? Because it helps the podcast, and I'd really appreciate it. How about that? What about social media? Search One Man Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube to keep up with what's going on there. Get a little extra content for yourself. And finally, to get in touch, please send your emails to contact@onemanpodcast.com. You send it, I read it on the podcast. That's the deal. Thanks for listening, guys, and I hope you enjoy this week's episode.
Hey, it's Paul Meyerhog from the Comedy Network and Comedy Central. You're listening to the One Man Podcast.
Yeah!
My name is Josh Williams, and welcome to the One Man Podcast, episode number 145 for Wednesday, February 19th, 2020. How's it going, onesies? How have you guys been since the last episode, huh? Have you guys been good? Have you been bad? Has it been 3 minutes for you? Again, this is another late episode of the One Man Podcast, though it is only a few days late. Not as many as the last one was. Thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for listening. I will tell you all about what is going on for the trip thus far. Episode, of course, being recorded in Glasgow, Scotland. Across the pond, guys, I'm coming at you from international areas. I guess the States is international too, but you know what I'm talking about, guys. I'm gonna get so much to tell you this episode, and I've actually got to keep an eye on the clock because I've got some stuff. So if I do glaze over some things, well, you guys know what you can do, right? You go, Josh, that story sounded like it had more legs than that. Well, send me an episode. Send me an email to contact@onemanpodcast.com if at any point in this episode you feel like you need more than what you got. Okay, you let me know and I'll do what I can. So what am I going to tell you about? I saw some movies, some on the plane, some in the theater before I left. I got some last minute things ready for my trip. I had another appointment with the therapist. I did a whiskey tasting with some friends. I will also tell you about the first few days here in Scotland, guys. I've got a big show here lined up for you. So let me just, I've even had to highlight this because there's so many things that happened. I wrote them all down, and then I had to sort of highlight the ones that are in Scotland and the trip to Scotland and some of the ones that happened beforehand. So let's just, boom, kick this thing off with something nice and lighthearted. You know what? Let's get the therapist thing out of the way. Went back to the therapist for a second time. I believe it was like the second part of our assessment or what have you. But at the end of the session, he has decided that it is him and I that will be working together. So he's not referring me to somebody else. I will be continuing to see him. And we're going to work on just growth overall. Like we were trying to sort of pinpoint what it is that I need to work on. And I think just growth as a human being at all. And of course, not physically, because I have grown quite large to begin with. So we got to work on shrinking physically, growing internally. And yeah, I hope it doesn't pull me apart in different directions. I'm going down the answer, whatever, fucking stupid. Excuse me. I have gotten into the whiskey a little bit, just a wee little bit here, having a dram. Oh my God, that's good. I was drinking green tea for the recording of the last, of course, for the last episode. Jesus, is he drunk? Maybe. I'm not the slightest bit, but the last episode I was sipping green tea, and then I'm like, all right, well, we've got only a few days left here, and I've got some little drams here that I need to get rid of. Get rid? No. Enjoy for the magic that they are. So yeah, I will be seeing the doctor again. Of course, I rescheduled my appointment for this week, so I'm supposed to see him every week. I got a little time slot there, but I couldn't do it this week, of course. I'm overseas, so figured all that shit out. So yeah, I'm gonna be working on growth with him, and I guess I'll tell you what I feel like I should tell you, and kind of just leave everything that's not. I mean, I'm not a very private person, clearly, but I mean, rather than giving you guys like daily and weekly updates and whatnot, and I'll leave it be. And if we're chatting, as I do with a lot of you, just, it's going good. It's going good, or whatever feedback I'll tell you. But and for the time being, unless it's something significant, I will leave it off the podcast. But the good news is I've got a little bit of hope because I will be speaking to someone and trying to better myself overall. Groovy. Okay. I also did some samplings before I left. So right before I left, I did like some wine and some beer samplings. Honestly, it was just a slight. I just took the gigs. I shouldn't have been working that weekend. I should have been getting more ready for the trip and things like that. But to be totally honest with you, February is a pretty quiet month. So I took every little gig that I could. I did those buns and food ones. I did, what is it? This last weekend I did alcohol ones and LCBOs. So just did everything I could to earn as much cash and try to land on my feet when I get back home. The good news is though, from that episode, from the calls and stuff that I did, like I was, working like whatever. I'm not trying to be negative, but it's, every one of my stories. No, it's short. I just mean, it's tough because I say like working like an idiot, and some of you might be like with your hands and physically, it's like, no, but the amount of like emails and messaging and like now that I'm working for all these different companies, it's like the constant, like you're bidding in the sense that you're constantly throwing your hat in the ring against other people, right? So I've got to constantly sell myself on every little program that I see posted and things like that. So I was scurrying and pitching myself for a lot of different programs before I left. Really over the entire course of February, but not getting as many as I would have liked. But I believe I landed a good one. Because it would appear that I'm working. They told me congratulations and they offered me work and I did all my onboarding and stuff like that. But I will be working for Nespresso through a company that I work with all the time. I'll be working for Nespresso selling their machines in Costco's. So, and the good part about that is I'll be working at 4 different locations and 2 weeks for each location. So it looks like I've got a good solid full-time hours for 2 months straight at some pretty decent cash. So I'm thrilled about that. I had my meeting with the guy who's running that, and it's going to be fun. I'm probably just like a goofball, wearing the silly bistro hats, whatever. But you know what? I love Costco. I love the Nespresso machines, and I love the fact that I make some money, for every machine sold. So I guarantee, because I'll be spending so much time with it, I'll end up buying one. I already love the machines. I've found them. I'm like, do I drink that much coffee? But you know what? Since I've been like eating one meal a day, P.S. haven't been doing that on this trip. Too much good food that I can't get at home that I've had to try. So not the case with this trip so far. And of course, today is Friday. I will only be telling you guys what's happened up until the end of the day, Tuesday. Because, that's what you'd get on a regular basis. Plus, I gotta keep something to tell you for next week's podcast, which will be on time, not to worry. So yeah, I'm gonna be working Nespresso. I got some other gigs that should be coming down the pipeline. So it's back to the grind for me. And so when I come back, it'll be all right. Be back to the gym, back to eating good and less. It'll be back to working events. It'll be, going to the therapist. So, lots of good life coming forward. And what's the best thing about it is, back in March we start to, hopefully the weather starts turning around. You know what I mean? A little bit warmer days, April showers bring May flowers, blah, 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 blah. And I have other projects I'm working on too that I've delayed and whatnot. So, good things coming ahead. So I'll tell you about my trip prep. There was a couple things I had to do. I completely forgot until not long before the trip that they have different electricity here. They have different outlets. So I was like, oh shit, I better get an adapter so I can use my products here. And I went out and I bought one at a store. And then 3 days before the trip, I was looking at it and it was like, oh, this is an adapter. It's not a power converter. And very quickly, the difference is, I don't expect you to know the numbers or whatever, but they use 220 in the UK and our stuff uses 120 or 110 or whatever it is. So the whole idea is that whenever people will buy an adapter, you go ahead and plug your hair dryer or something in and it fries right away. And the whole reason is it's getting twice as much power as it's looking for. So it doesn't actually convert the power. It just makes it so that you can actually plug your item into the wall itself. So some things like laptops and iPhones and certain things like that will do their own power conversion. but to me, that's very risky. And then there's like regular things you want to plug in, like, like my charger for my electric toothbrush and things like that. I just plug it in the wall and fry my thing. I'm not looking to do that. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to need something that actually converts the power, doesn't just allow me to plug it into the wall. So like 2 days out, I think on Friday, I ordered something off of Amazon that had like next day delivery that's actually a power converter. And it has been working for me very successfully this entire time, keeping all my stuff charged nicely. And then, of course, my folks were like, hey, do you have a raincoat? And I was like, to be honest, no. Because they're like, over there, you don't need a winter coat. It's just raining all the time. So this prep for the trip and everything like that's been pretty costly to me. So I was like, yeah, no, I don't have a raincoat. And they're like, well, if you want, we'll get you a raincoat. So a gift from my mom and my dad. So a couple of days before the trip, I went to whatever. I'm not plugging them. Fuck them. It's so expensive. I went to a store and I picked up a raincoat. Now this is like an outdoor store or whatever like that. And I think I picked up a coat that was like $250. It's a great raincoat. It really was. It really is. And it's working fantastic. But it was like $250, but it was on clearance for like $120. So I got it for a great price. Still $120 for a coat is not cheap. But compared to what it was, it's great. And it's a little bit small, but the whole thing right now, guys, is I'm losing weight. And in order to, rather than buy something that, in hopefully 2 or 3 months will be way too big, I'd rather be a little small now, and then it's just right. And then as I continue to lose weight, maybe it's just a little bit big then, So very happy with the purchase, very happy with the jacket. So I got my power converter and I got myself a raincoat, both of which I've been using daily here in the UK. So great prep for that. I saw a movie called Knives Out with Chris Evans, who plays Captain America. That was a great flick. It wasn't like, it got really high ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. It wasn't bad by any means. I just didn't find it like this groundbreaking thing. It was kind of like a little whodunit mystery, and I was entertained the entire time. But in terms of like, I've seen movies that got like 70s and 80s that were, in my opinion, way better than this. So I don't know what this rating was based on, but again, a good movie, but like 97 or whatever it is, not a chance, not in my books. But an all-star cast, and maybe that's just what it was. It had an all-star cast, and there wasn't really any flaws to it. I just, at no point did I find it like uber compelling, but had a good time. Went to go see it with my mom and Simon. So I did that. What else did I do? I went to the doctor because I still was having a hard time beating this cold. I still have the cold, but it's more like, I'm like, okay, I'm trying to get on a plane internationally in a few days, and I can't get on a plane if I'm coughing because everyone's worried about the coronavirus and stuff like that. So, they're shutting people down at the airport. So I was like, yeah, no, I need something. I waited forever, and then I got this like teleconference doctor. So I'm basically standing there with like I guess a nurse or a doctor in training who's, taking all my info down. And then finally, we get, I think finally we get this guy who whatever. Come on. It was like Skype doctor. And he was on there for like, he tried to get off the thing like the second he started. And he was like, yeah, just take your Ventolin, take a Symbicort, and you'll be good to go. And I go, well, hold on a second, man. I've been taking Ventolin. I've been taking Symbicort. It's not working. I've had this for like 3.5 weeks. And I go, and I'm headed to Scotland this weekend. He's like, well, that's fine. He's like, if you're still having problems on the weekend, just go see a doctor in Scotland. I mean, they have doctors there. And I was like, well, first off, do I even have medical coverage there? Secondly, if I'm coughing like this, I'm not even getting to Scotland. So I basically like forced him to give me an antibiotic prescription. I was like, even if it has a placebo effect, just if I'm taking pills, like my brain might just go, hey, you're getting better in my body and whatever. The placebo effect has definitely recorded effects over the years. Like people who were just taking placebos, but believed they were getting better still, got better. So, fuck them. Anyways, fucking losers at Apple Tree, honest to God. They don't give I can't say this for sure. I feel like they don't give a fuck. You can't come at me for my fucking feelings. So I really don't like going there. But sometimes when you're like, okay, well, I got to see somebody today. If, a real doctor isn't available, you got to go see the fucking, I don't even know what the hell they are. Again, I'm not shitting. Like, I can't be like, they're this. I'm not making declarations of fucking comedy podcast. Although not everything I say is funny. Yeah. So, what else did I do? I did a whiskey tasting with my friend Sean, Megan, I believe Christy and Yannick, I believe their names, or Yanis. They came over. We tasted some amazing bourbons, Eagle Rare, Blanton's, and Wild Turkey Rare Breed, some great bourbons, and played some games. And it was great. We did that on Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is a particularly difficult day for me. And being a good human being, I can't really get into why. Obviously, you guys aren't stupid. It's Valentine's Day, and I got in a relationship, and I've been talking about how rough it's been. I also, like I said, omitted something from the last episode that made everything a lot tougher too. But overall, a staple in my relationship, something happened on Valentine's Day years ago, and Valentine's Day has been a very, very difficult day ever since. And so I've talked about how lately I've just run through this gauntlet of sentimental, important days, going through Christmas. And again, I was sick through a lot of it. So going through Christmas, then New Year's has always had special significance for me and the ex. Then my birthday, then, the recording, and then Valentine's Day. It's just like these significant days, and just trying to get through them, so it's been, my heart's been like just shreds, confetti blowing in the wind for the last little while. So, it was really, really great that I didn't have to spend Valentine's night alone. And because your head goes in a certain in places. And actually, even though we did a whiskey tasting, I didn't partake. I was worried about kind of how the alcohol would affect me emotionally, and it's a depressant. So they were great. Everybody stayed. We played games. We had a good time until about midnight, and I was able to just kind of go upstairs and go to bed. I think it was even maybe 1:00 by the time everyone left. So it was good. I didn't have to spend that whole night, going to bad places in my head. Anyways. So, thank you, Sean. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Christy and Yannick, if I've got those correct. I had a really good time, and it was a perfect distraction. Loved it. So Sunday, I did an event, and then went to the airport, got my shit together, went to the airport, and we hopped on a flight, direct flight from Ottawa to Heathrow in London. I got the guy at the gate was great. Actually, you know what? I had a great little experience before we left. Simon and I were there early enough to have a beer before we got on the plane. Met a lovely lady by the name of, if I'm not mistaken, Katie. I could be wrong. We were chatting whiskey. She added me on Facebook. She was a lovely server at the airport bar there. And I think that was the great kickoff. Just a really sweet girl who was like, oh, I'd love to hang out sometime and maybe talk whiskeys and learn and da-da-da-da-da. So I was like, yeah, it's great. I'm going to Scotland to get some more whiskeys right now. Try out some magical ones. So that was cool. And then the guy, one of the flight, I guess, I don't know what to call them there. They were customer service representative or whatever. He let me switch my seat. So I looked at the plane, saw what was available. And Simon and I were the last two to get on the plane. And that was a suggestion from my buddy Max, who listens to the podcast. Max, shout out to you in Toronto. Max had suggested, Max works for all sorts of different airlines that currently, I'm not going to get him in trouble anyways. He had suggested to me that when you go, wait to get on last, and then just ask the guys if you can switch seats. So I basically found a section of seats, so it's the ones that have like the 3 seats in the middle of the plane. And I found one that had 3 seats vacant, and I just asked for the middle one. So basically Simon was sitting Simon wanted a window seat somewhere else, and he was next to somebody. But I was like, yeah, I'll take those 3 seats there with nobody on them for my, 6 or 7 hour flight. And it was great. I put all my shit, under the seats and the seats next to me. So I didn't have to, the overhead stuff was pretty full, but, I got on the plane. I watched 3 movies. So I had the in-flight meal, which was decent. I probably had 3 drinks on the plane. Trying to sleep. It was a long day and I wanted to sleep, but unfortunately, I think I fell asleep at one point near the end. I was finally like, oh, I'm going to get a little bit of rest here. Finally fell asleep, and the person behind me, who never did this once during the entire trip, when I finally fell asleep, they kicked the seat and woke me up, and I couldn't get back to sleep. I think I might have been asleep for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, but I think, and then they kicked the seat, woke me up, and that was it. So, whether it's accidental or not, big fuck you to that person. I tried to sleep the whole plane. It's really uncomfortable to sleep on a plane. But I watched 3 movies. I watched Zombieland 2 Double Tap. Definitely wasn't the entertainment that the first one was. But I watched it. You know, if you like the first Zombieland movie, it's a little bit more of the same with yeah, whatever. It's a little more of the same. All right. Then I watched this movie called Ready or Not, and it had this blonde actress who was in like some sort of babysitter movie, like a killer babysitter movie on Netflix. She was also very briefly in Ash versus the Evil Dead show that they had on like Showtime or Stars or something. She's been in a few things. Anyways, it's a movie where like this family, when you marry into their family, you have to play a game, and then she gets this game called she gets hide and seek. And the whole idea is that the whole family is like chasing her through this house trying to kill her. Like their lot in life is to kill this bitch before the sun comes up. Whatever. Just a stupid suspense horror, scary movie. You know? Thriller, I would say. It's not really scary, but thriller. So watch that, and it wasn't half bad. You know, it's like this, but let's put it this way. Zombieland and Ready or Not were perfect movies to watch on the plane. You got nothing better to do, so watch them, and they're mildly entertaining. Had I paid to go see them or something, I might have been like, well, that was shit. But they were entertaining, definitely entertaining. And then, of course, I for the third, like, there wasn't a whole lot on the plane that I wanted to see. It wasn't really. Simon watched like these two fucking independent films or whatever. Anyways, I watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for the second time and enjoyed it. Tarantino does a great job. His stuff's entertaining. I got to watch it the second time knowing a little bit more, but yeah. So that was my flight to Heathrow. Fell asleep in the middle of Once Upon a Time, which is fine because you want to put on something you've seen before. You don't want to get sucked into something. But yeah, I got what did I put here? Flights to Scotland. Yeah. I told you about the movies, right? I told you about that. I told you about the seat upgrade. Having the middle was great, super great. I got I had a reasonable amount to drink on the plane. Reasonable. I actually basically had one drink every 2 hours, which, you know, to some people might go, you should have tried harder. Maybe I should have. But we got to Heathrow at like, I guess it was like 8 o'clock in the morning their time. Because we left at 8, got there at 8. So it was like 7-hour flight. Yeah, because you had 7 hours, 5 hours, 12 hours. 12 is 5-hour difference. Yeah. So 7-hour flight, got there at like 8:30. And then I went to the lounge because I got a new MasterCard that gives me lounge access. And I just found something out today that's little troublesome, but I'll figure it out. We go and get it figured out. The whole idea is you get like, there's lounges all over the world in airports, and they're pretty nice. They got food and a nice place to eat and free drinks and stuff like that. So I guess on my MasterCard, I get 2 free passes to these lounges a year. That's about 30. I think they charge you like 31 US. So probably like, let's say like 45 bucks Canadian is what it would cost you. So we get to there, when we get to Heathrow, we actually had to take a bus to our terminal, and it drove for like 5 to 10 minutes. So imagine like how big that fucking airport is when you're at one terminal and you take a 5 to 10 minute bus ride to the terminal that you're in. Like, it was huge. It was fucking huge. So we get to the lounge, and I go, okay, I want to use one of my passes for me. And then you have the option of letting somebody else pay to come in too. So I offered to let Simon, I offered to put his money on my, like, it costs you less if you just put it on the credit card. I offered to do that. He said no, and he paid cash. I physically watched him pay cash and then take the money. So I used up one of my free passes, and Simon paid to get in, and it was groovy. Now, here's a little side note. I just noticed today that on my card, there was a charge for the lounge. So I used, and then I checked my passes, and one of my 2 passes had been used. So they charged me, and they took one of my passes, and I watched Simon pay cash. So we paid for 3, and there was only 2 of us. So I got to get them to fix that. Anywho, blop-a-dee, blop-a-dee, blop, blop. So yeah, we went into the lounge. The lounge had a nice big breakfast spread. They had free drinks. Simon drank a lot. Now I would imagine too that he had slept most of the day. I had to get up early and do a tasting, then come back and pack and just do a ton of shit. So I'd been up since early in the morning, and it is now like 8 o'clock the next day. I think I think you take 5 hours out of there. So I was a full day awake, and traveling stresses me out a little bit. All right. I wasn't able to sleep on the plane or anything like that. And we weren't even getting to Glasgow until like 2, like we had all like 5 minutes shy of a 5-hour layover. So we're like, okay, we got a lot of shit to do. So I'm still kind of stressed out. When we got to Heathrow, actually, before we made it to the lounge, we found all these whiskey shops. If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook or any of that stuff, I posted the different whiskey shops that we were at and things like that. So we were getting actually some whiskey taste in there. Then we went to the lounge, had reasonable amount of food at the lounge. Simon was just drinking his fucking face off, but I was already fading. And I'm like, I can't get drunk right now because I'll pass out and we need to get on another plane. So sat in the lounge, had a good time. Yeah, it was fantastic. Simon definitely made use of the money that he spent to get in there in drinks. And then we got on our British Airways plane. Small seats, nothing, 3-seat by 3-seat plane. It was only like an hour flight, but it was slightly delayed or whatever. Then we got in the plane, and this was the first plane I've ever been on. So I've been on Delta, I've been on Porter, I've been on Air Canada, and I've been on British Airways. And British Airways was the only time I've ever been on a plane where we went up in the air, and if you wanted anything, it cost money. So like, even as normally it's like you can get little snacks and drinks and coffee and stuff like that. No booze necessarily, but you get you can have coffee or pop or water for free. And there's usually like, peanuts is the hacky thing, but I've actually never been on a plane that's offered me peanuts. It's usually little chips, cookies, crackers, something, a little snack. Now, all of them have like paid meals. If you want to buy better snacks or buy booze or things like that, like those are all options. But British Airways was the only one that was like only paid stuff. And I was like, huh. Then it was late leaving. The plane was the driest plane I've ever been on. And I thought that's a huge conflict of interest. I mean, not to say wasn't just a set of whatever it was, but it was like, we're on this fucking plane. It is so dry in here. And if you want anything to drink at all, you have to pay for it. I'm like, that's kind of sneaky. It's like when they oversalt fries or oversalt chips or popcorn or nachos so that you get, at a bar so that you're like extra thirsty when you eat them and you buy more drinks. It's, it's a fucking scam, but it's part of the, what it is. So, excuse me. So the British Airways flight was up and down. Heathrow was sunny when we got there. Everyone's like, oh, it's raining all the time in London. It was so sunny when we got there. It was beautiful. We got on the British Airways flight. We go way up in the clouds. I have pictures of how blue the fucking sky was above the clouds. And then we came back down through the clouds at Glasgow, and it was gray. And then it started to rain right as the plane touched down. And it was done by the time we actually got through the airport. So we had to go through the airport. And by the time we got outside, it was just gray. And then it's been off and on rain the whole time we've been here. Like you see the sun come out in a blue sky for like 30 minutes, if that, and then it's right back to gray and then rain, and then just cycles through it. But the last few days have been just like straight rain. None of that gay rain. But yeah, so we got off at Glasgow, and then we hit. So again, my last episode talking about like shit going wrong. Like I even looked into the lounge or whatever, tried to prepare myself for it. So I felt like that went off without a hitch, and then find out today I was definitely wrong about that. So here's where, we didn't have a huge issue with our planes. It just wasn't great. I think I'm trying to remember, something happened. No, the rental was the first thing. So we get to our. We get to the rental spot at the airport, Glasgow, pick up our shit, get to the airport. And when we get to the rental, they're asking us, so did you want the insurance? And I'm like, well, of course I want the insurance, but we paid for it on Expedia. When we bought it on Expedia, the trip, everything, hotel, car rental, everything, we chose the extra insurance option. And they said, oh, well, that's not showing up here. And in fact, if you get the insurance through them, it's like their own special insurance. So like in the event that something happens to the vehicle, you'd make a claim through them, and there's certain things they cover, certain things that they don't, but we still charge you £500 with a claim number. So if something happens, you try to make a claim through them, give us a claim number, we charge you £500. Without a claim number, it's £5,000. So it's like, of course we will replenish the difference, but that's what we take. And I'm like, okay. And I go, well, that's fucked up and whatnot. So I'm like, okay, well, what's the insurance? Because normally back in Canada, and this was the rent enterprise. So normally in Canada, you rent a vehicle and it's like $11 or $12 a day for full coverage. Here it was like full coverage shy of like $100 deductible. So even if something happens, I only have to pay not $100, £100. So we got the additional coverage. But if something happens, we have to pay £100, which again, is, rather than 500 or 5,000 or buying a new vehicle, I'm like, okay, but here's the thing. I go, so how much is that coverage? And she says £193, guys. That's $330 Canadian for 6 days with this vehicle, 6 or 7 days with this vehicle. So that was a huge extra expenditure that Simon and I had. And here's the thing. If we didn't need the vehicle to drive to Isla, to drive to Edinburgh from where we were, I would have just said, you know what? Don't worry about it. Just keep the vehicle. We're not going to get it. Doesn't matter. It's the same price as the flights. But since we had to get the vehicle, we had to incur this extra expenditure. So that was fucking awful. We're trying to find all these different ways around it. Like my credit card says that I know I have rental car insurance, but we didn't book the trip on my credit card, so it might not be covered. Like all these different things. We spent like an hour and a half at this rental place trying to find an alternative and figure out exactly, trying to call Expedia, but Expedia only has like North American numbers, or it has like a collect call. Not collect call, but like a paid international number. So I'm like, I'm already going to fork out $193. I'm not going to sit on the phone with Expedia for 40 minutes paying, $3 a minute, just cost more to find out like, we don't take care of you. I Googled a bunch of stuff and there was a bunch of people online saying like Expedia's insurance is garbage or whatever. This is what I Googled. I'm not saying this as a, one man podcast proven fact, but, I would suggest not getting, unless you can reach out, guys, and tell me that you've had a better experience going through your travel agent for the car insurance. I was basically told that going forward, just rent the vehicle from the place. Buy the insurance from the place. Don't get it from the travel site, because it's a lesser insurance. They take the money and they don't give it to the car company. So anywho, so we forked it a ton of shit. Then we got to our hotel. Driving on the opposite. I don't call it wrong, because wrong makes it sound like you're in America. This is the wrong side of the road. No, it's right where they are. The correct side of the road, but so I just say it's the opposite side. And it's fucked up. They have all sorts of roundabouts here, and roundabouts are relatively easy to manage, but their lines are painted in such a way that the lanes end and then start new ones. And when you're already on the opposite side of the road, it's kind of fucked up, and their speed limit signs are small. Everything is very different here. Like they don't, and when I say very small, like, when you get like a tea saucer, like I would say it's like a small dessert plate at a buffet size sign, and you're supposed to see it when you get close to it. It's great. And the speed limits change constantly. Like every 3 blocks they change. So you're constantly trying to find the thing or whatever. So it's freaky, and they're allowed to park, whatever direction they want on the roads here. So like in Canada, or at least in Ontario, you can only park on the street facing the direction of the lane. It's, you actually get it. I've gotten a ticket before because I was parked the opposite way facing. So, but when you're driving, that's kind of a good little visual clue of like what lane is, is this a one-way street or is it a two-way street? And just a little, if you were in Canada and you were from, a country that drives on the opposite side of the road, at least you'll be able to look at the street and see all the cars facing in a direction on the side of the street parked. And you go, oh, okay, I drive that direction on this side. No, the other side, they're facing the other way. Here, they can park any which way they want on any side of the street. So there's no visual help to remind you like, hey, on this lane over here, this one over there, none of that stuff. Not to mention the fact too that you're used to looking left before you turn right, because that's where the danger comes from. Well, now you got to train yourself to look the opposite way. And to you guys, it all sounds easy. I'm telling you right now, your knee-jerk reaction, it's like put it this way. You know how they say it's like riding a bike? Like a lot of things in life are just like riding a bike. Well, imagine something about bike riding just all of the sudden changed out of nowhere and it was completely opposite. And you go, well, yeah, but your muscle memory is before you pull out into the street, you always look, you always look left first if you're turning right. Well, you can't do that here because, even just if you're like, yeah, you stay left is a tight left. Yeah, but you're still looking the wrong way because the danger's coming from the other side now in the lane. You're like, it's hard to explain, but it's not as simple as just drive on the opposite side of the road is all I'm saying. I've done it and I've gotten pretty goddamn good at it while I'm here, but I'm saying that the initial part is scary as fuck. So we finally got to our hotel and we had to get on like a highway and do a bunch of roundabouts and all sorts of shit getting here. But simple as that, we got to our hotel around like 5 p.m., which means at this point, been up for about 26 or 27 hours straight. So fading, tired, want to shower, all that stuff. We get to our hotel and they give us a room. We were even telling them like we had a nightmare. The thing, they give us a room, we get into a room and it's one bed. We booked 2 twin beds. For some reason, I thought a twin bed was like a double. I don't know why I thought that, but it's like a fucking barracks bed, a single bed, like you're, camp or whatever. So we go down to the thing, and I show them on the Expedia thing. It's like, guys, it's supposed to be two twin beds. And like, oh, that's weird. That's not what we have here. And I'm like, yeah, fuck Expedia. They've already fucked us in so many ways, seemingly. So they went down. They gave us the twin beds. We come into the next room, and it looks like a single bed, except there's like a tiny little groove in the middle of the bed. So it was 2 single beds pushed together, 2 twin beds pushed together. So I pulled them apart, and we finally just kind of went, okay. So I think at this point it was like 6 o'clock or so. I'm like, Simon, let's have a quick little nap, buddy, because I got nothing in the tank. So we were gonna have like a 30-minute nap. It ended up being like an hour and 45 minutes, but I had to wake Simon up, and I'm like, okay, listen, let's get up and let's go have at least dinner. Let's go at least have dinner. We don't want to waste a whole evening, and if we pass out now, our clocks are gonna be all fucked up for here. So I'm like, let's go have dinner. We'll get back at 10 or 11. And then we'll pass the fuck up, if I pass the fuck out and wake up the next day and then make a day of it, whatever. So we ended up going to a place called the Ubiquitous Chip, which was in our little travel books. Is a great place to go. We took an Uber into Glasgow because I was like, fuck this. I'm too tired and whatnot to figure out this opposite side of the street thing right now. Like, let's just make it a no-brainer. Simon totally agreed. We took an Uber, had a great meal at the Ubiquitous Chip. We had a French server, we had a Polish server, and then we had a Scottish server. All of them were helping out. Great meal. The French fries, chips were absolutely hand cut, different sizes, whatever. Absolutely amazing. Simon had like a grilled fish or whatever, and I had this like meat plate, these different kinds of porks and stuff like that. Whatever. There's pictures on my Instagram, whatever. Great spot, great digs. And then we walked down the street, picked up, I had to pick up some like Listerine and stuff because they took my shit at the airport. I don't know why. I should have packed my toiletries into my luggage. Instead, I wasn't thinking, and I put it in my bag. I was just trying to make things fit where they fit, and I couldn't bring the liquids on there. So they threw out my, what did they throw out? They threw out my hair stuff. They threw out my shaving cream, and pretty expensive shaving cream. And they threw out my mouthwash. So I lost like $30-40 worth of shit. All in one go. Maybe closer to 30. Either way. So Ubiquitous Chip was great. Had a great time. Grabbed some shit on the street. And someone was telling me I had to go across the way to some place called Mario's and get a deep fried Mars bar. Apparently it's all about the deep fried Mars bar. Well, by the time we got back, we grabbed an Uber, got back to our hotel. The bar was just about to close here in the hotel. We decided let's have a beer now that we were safely back. And I think I ate like the Mars bar like 2.5, 3 hours later. Honestly, it was just gross. It tasted like a tempura Mars bar. Maybe when it's hot and crispy, but when it's dry and or cold and soggy, it just tasted like a fucking old Mars bar that had like sort of rubbery bread on the outside. It wasn't great. Whatever. Maybe I'll try another one. But I also don't need that shit in my life. Like I ate it. I was like, I didn't enjoy any part of that, and I probably just ate like 300, 400, 500 calories. Who knows? So whatever. Ubiquitous Chip, fantastic. Then the next day, they were telling us here that, I should say, give a lot of love to the barmaid, the lovely Angel who was here, Lindsay at the thing. So Lindsay actually served us. We were close to last call or whatever. I thought it'd be like 1 o'clock like everywhere else, but Lindsay gave us our drinks and actually sat there and chatted with us. We were the only 2 people in the bar, and she sat and she chatted with us till midnight. So we should have been done like 11, maybe just afterwards. But she sat and chatted with us and told us all sorts of stuff to look for, and to get the breakfast in the morning, the buffet here, and all. We just had a great conversation. She didn't rush us at all. Sat down with us and asked us questions. We asked her questions. Absolutely great. And I got we've seen Lindsay again since, but that will be on next week's episode. So the next day, Simon and I got up, kind of had to force ourselves up because I don't think we got to sleep until like 1 o'clock in the morning, but the breakfast buffet here, they have all sorts of stuff. So they got like blood pudding. I don't think it's called blood pudding. Black pudding, I think they call it, or whatever. And that's like, it looks like rounds, but apparently it's like pig's blood and then mixed with a bunch of stuff. They told me to try haggis. Haggis is, most people know what it is. So here's the thing. Haggis is sheep's heart, lung, liver, organs. Like they do like oats and spices, and then they stick it in a pig's stomach, tie the ends, and then boil it. Well, I thought they just took again, there's a picture of me spread. They're like, "Oh, you spread it on toast." I'm like, "How do you spread that on toast?" But here's the thing: is that it's kind of like the texture of not texture, sorry, but it's kind of like the look of sausage. So they slice it into rounds, whatever. But here's the thing: I just thought it was like whole organs in there. So you're like, ugh. It's not. It's actually, they take all that stuff and they grind it all up and puree it and then stick it in with the oats and the spices and everything like that. So the texture is actually infinitely better than you would think. And to be honest with you, when I tried it, it tasted pretty good. It tasted pretty good, but it had like a slightly different, like I was kind of like, oh, this is kind of like, it's almost like got a bit of like an oatmeal texture with like a bit of like sausage, maybe like liverwurst kind of. And as I'm trying to put my nose in the put my finger on the texture, I'm also like thinking about what it is. I've always known what it is, but I'm just like thinking about it. And I'm like, nah. And I just, at that point, once I started thinking about what it is and then the texture is like, yeah, I don't think I love this. I'm like, it's not bad. I go, honestly, and I even have to be honest, if I didn't know what it was, I probably would have enjoyed it. But I didn't hate it when I was trying it, but I'm just like, yeah, I just don't think I can get past what it is. But that's the thing. Hey man, I could have just come here and go, nope, sounds gross, not doing it. I did it. So, we went to, so we had the breakfast, we came back, showered, changed, and then we went to, into Glasgow. All right. We were going to take one of those like hop on, hop off bus tours. But instead, we ended up doing. We went to the Pot Still, which was highly recommended to me by a friend in Ottawa named Jesse, who'd been in Scotland not too long ago. We went to the place called the Pot Still. Pot Still has tons of whiskeys available. Again, a lot of this stuff, guys. If you're following Josh Williams Comedy on Instagram or Facebook, if you're a friend of mine on Facebook, you'll have it. But if you're following me on Instagram, Josh Williams Comedy, I was posting all of these things as we were doing them. So be sure. I haven't posted the half the week yet, just because I've been so behind, and certain areas we've been in haven't had the reception to like post shit. So this is your opportunity to follow me now. You will see a lot of these other things coming. I'll be posting more shit. Went to the Pot Still. Our barmaid's name was Sally, I believe, and Sally. We had Simon and I were there for like 2 hours, 3 hours maybe, just drinking whiskeys and talking whiskey. And then we got some recommendations for a place. I wanted to have macaroni pies. And macaroni pies are, what are they? It's like a tiny little tart almost. Like the pie crust is like, it's not like, I thought it would be like a tiny little tortilla or shepherd's pie, like the kind of things you can get in restaurants where it's like a little one in a silver tinfoil dish. Cause Nick Martinello was telling me like, hey, you gotta get a macaroni pie, buddy. You gotta get the macaroni pie. It's great. And I was like, all right. I'll get one. But I thought like a pastry flaky pie crust, and then the macaroni in it and then the top. So the macaroni pies don't have that. In fact, the pie crust that they're in is kind of like, I'm trying to think. So it's like sometimes you can get like key lime pies, like little key lime pie tarts that have like these thin walled ones. It's almost like it's almost like if a ramekin dish was pastry, but at the same time, like half the thickness of a ramekin dish. You know what I mean? It's almost like it's not got the texture of a cracker, but it's halfway between a cracker and a pie crust that the macaroni pie sits in. And then the top is just exposed macaroni. Delicious, super greasy, but fucking delicious. Although they had two other ones at this place that we went to. I'm getting way ahead of myself. Macaroni pie was on my list of things to try. Everyone had recommended it. So we went to this place around the corner from the Pot Still called the Good Spirits Company, and we had a great conversation with a woman named Victoria there, who was Lithuanian. Shockingly, the only Lithuanian I've ever met in my entire life, shy of my buddy Peter back in Ottawa. And she was letting us try whiskeys, talking whiskeys, telling us about all these different things. Simon and I picked up cigars there that we meant to smoke earlier this week, but it's just been so... Again, the next episode I'll tell you all about that shit. But... they had recommended us to, Sally had recommended us that we go to a place called Old Salty's for the macaroni pies and some of the stuff there. I had said that we were going to be going to Isla, and I wanted to try some fish and chips somewhere, just to get a nice breaded piece of fish and chips. And they were saying that like, no, you gotta have it on Isla because they're so close to the ocean that, it'll be fresh caught that day or whatever. So anyways, macaroni pies, Old Salty's. We went to the Good Spirits Company. Simon and I picked up cigars. Did a lot of whiskey chatting, had a great time having conversations with them. And then we walked through Glasgow. And as we were walking through Glasgow, it started to rain. It was the first time I was able to put my rain jacket to the test. And it rained. I took pictures. It was about a 45-minute walk over to the Old Salties. And it's funny, Old Salties is literally 2 blocks away from the Ubiquitous Chip where we had been the night before. So it's kind of funny to end up right back in the same neighborhood, walking the exact same streets. We'd also picked up some late night groceries at a place called Tesco or whatever. It was like this tiny little like hole in the wall grocery store. It wasn't very big. It was like a convenience store that was slightly bigger. And it looked shitty. It looked shitty, not to shit on their company or whatever. It just looked shitty. Like half the shelves were bare. And I don't mean like a lot of stuff was missing. I'm talking like half the shelves were bare, like they were going out of business. Oh, thank you, Lefroy. But anyways, yeah, so we ended up going to Old Salties, walked through Glasgow, got to see like the university and some nice spots. I got pictures I'll post. And Old Salties, I had the macaroni pie. Simon and I were also on a time crunch because we were like, okay, tomorrow morning we got to leave at like 3 a.m. to make our ferry ride to Isla. So we're like, we got to go out. We got to come back real early so that we can go to sleep to get up at 3 o'clock. So we did Old Salties. Both Simon and I had sides. I think Simon got a curry pie. It was just like curry chicken pie. And he had fish and chips there, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that's what yes, he had the fish and chips. And I had macaroni pie with fries. And it was delicious. And then we both had like the homemade churros, which were really, really good. And then they're like, yeah, and if you want, you can get a takeaway pie. They're cheaper. I was like, they're cheaper. So I paid like £4 per pie. And these are little pies, by the way. They're not like fucking giant pies. But I got a steak pie, which is basically just big chunks of beef covered in gravy cooked into a pie. The other two, the curry pies and the steak pies, had like puff pastry on top. So they actually had like pastry on top. The macaroni was, so I got one more macaroni pie and a steak one for the hotel in case I got hungry late night, which I did. And then we hopped in our Uber and headed back to the old Glen Hill, which is where we've been staying. And the whole staff here is absolutely amazing at the Glen Hill. Kind, courteous, whatnot. I'll tell you more about that in an upcoming episode. Well, in the next episode, I should say. But for the time being, it's surprising. I actually had more to say this episode, but the last one, I guess I rambled on about stories that I had. The place is great, man. Scotland has been great so far. It's raining constantly, off and on. But like it's funny because without giving too much away, right? I'm trying to save what's happened since for the next episode. But the food's been pretty good. One of the things we noticed is that they have these chips called Walker chips, and they're basically Lay's. And by that I mean, like, if you look at the label, it's like the yellow banner with the red circle behind. Basically, Lay's logo, instead of being called Lay's, it's called Walker. And I thought it was really funny because I'm like, I've never really associated Walker's chips. Really? People are eating chips, they're known for their, being Walkers? I don't think so. I think it is better that it's called Lay's in the product, because that's what you do. You lay around and eat chips for the fat fucks just laying there. So I'm going to try that out tonight. I may as well tell you guys, I can leave the episode with that, is that I will be performing, doing a little spot, get to try out comedy here in Scotland. So I'll be doing a show this evening, doing a little spot there, see how they like my accent. I've been basically making sure people haven't really confused me for American a lot. Some of them said that they can tell, but overall I've had to tell people like, Canadian, not American. It's my understanding that they're not big fans of the English here. They're not a big fan of England. So, they don't like it when people confuse them with the British. And I'm like, well, it's kind of the same when we get confused with our neighbors to the south. We would much rather have that we are not them either. So, that's it, gang. We got for the rest of the week. I've got Simon's in London right now. So I'm going to be driving into Edinburgh. I'm going to spend an hour on the road. Apparently it's a very busy city with a lot of hard parking. So all of my skills driving on the opposite side of the road, they are all going to come into effect this evening, and hopefully I don't die. I'll also be driving by myself, so maybe it'll be easier, maybe it'll be tougher. But yeah, that's what I'm doing tonight. Tomorrow night, I rendezvous back up with Simon this evening. So I'll be meeting him. We're going to go to, come on, brain. We're going to go to the show this evening. We might stay and have a beer there, whatever, but we're going to try to come back because the bar here at the hotel is open a little later, and I love it here. I do love it here. And there's a great little pizza joint, actually, that's open a little later. So if we can get back in time for that, I'd love to snag a little pie. But yeah, all that shit for another time. So you guys are the best. I'm looking forward to my last 2 nights here in town. We have to be at the airport very, very early on Sunday morning. Because our flight's at like 6:45, so we got to get there at like 4. So I think the plan is after tomorrow night's shows, we drive back from Edinburgh and we're just going to sit at the bar here until like 3. We're going to pack tomorrow morning, sit at the bar until like 3, and then just throw the shit in the car, bring the car back, drop it off, go into the terminal, and just hang there until our flight. We can start checking in and all that stuff. So, yeah, I'm home on Sunday. Home on Sunday. So thanks, onesies. Sorry for the 2 late podcasts. Appreciate you guys being there. We'll tell you more, of course, as always, if you have any questions or you want to know more about anything. For starters, to see a lot of the visuals I'm talking about, Josh Williams Comedy on Instagram, or either follow me or be a friend on Facebook, and you get to see all the stuff that I'm posting as it happens. A lot of this week I haven't posted yet, so do it, follow it, and you'll see it when I get it posted. I'm going to try to do it maybe tomorrow or sitting around the airport first thing in the morning on Sunday. Cool. So you guys have a great week. I will chat with you again soon.